Hey everyone, going live to talk about what I have seen most commonly as an injury for longtime yoga practitioners. We've been chatting about this all week on social media. I've really been loving your input. I've heard shoulders, a lot of shoulder guesses, a lot of something with the wrist, and some other suggestions: groin pull, lower back discomfort, hip stuff. And to be honest, I've seen all of that as yoga injuries over the course of teaching for the last 20 years. I myself have had plenty of tweaks, and there's a range of injuries that you can sustain in yoga and of course through all physical activity. And I'm so curious about the science around this data. I really did a deep dive online, seeing if I could find any scientific evidence for the most common yoga injury or the most common tweak that people get from practicing yoga. And I really couldn't find any research to share with you. So if you happen to know of any, if you know anybody who's researching this, I'm actually really curious. And one thing I want to say about yoga injuries is I think that there's a difference between a tweak that might inhibit the way you practice or might encourage you to stop practicing or maybe to change the style of yoga, and an injury that you sustain that would really prevent you from practicing anymore, and that might be with you for a long time or really sometimes for your whole lifetime. And so I think that commonly we'll get some tweaks in our wrists that'll be uncomfortable, and we'll stop practicing, or maybe we'll refine the way we practice because of that. We'll have some shoulder discomfort, and that'll encourage us to take a deeper dive into the alignment and really make sure that joint is supported over the long haul. But the injury that I have seen the most often in longtime yoga practitioners is hands down overstretched hamstring attachment. The tendon at the top of the hamstring that connects to the sit bone through the repetitive forward folding gets overstretched, has too much force, and you end up with what is essentially tendonitis. It's something that you might notice in a standing forward fold, in a hip opener like pigeon, or like seated fire log pose. And if it gets really intense, you might even just feel it when you're sitting, like if you're driving. This tweak, this overstretched up at the hamstring attachment, is something. It was probably like 12 years ago. I was teaching in Philly, and someone had come to my class, and she had suffered this injury. We were talking after. I was helping her with some things. And I found out later she was actually a teacher at another studio. And I gave her some pointers and some exercises to do. And then she told a friend that she was teaching with, and I helped that friend. And then that friend told another friend. So I was referred all around this other yoga studio for this injury, because it is so common to have an overstretched hamstring attachment up at the sit bone. I think the styles of yoga where I've seen this the most are any kind of flow style. So Ashtanga yoga, any kind of vinyasa yoga, and then also like the classic 26 pose Bikram type of practice. Even though there's not vinyasa in that practice, there's a lot of hip flexion and a lot of emphasis on locking the knees that can put too much force up at the hamstring attachment. And I was just recently I was chatting with a friend. I'm gonna keep her anonymous, but she used to live in Philly. Great friend, love her, teacher, just like me, like really committed to yoga, like really dedicating her life to it. And she had posted something about she's really into Ashtanga yoga, and she had posted that she's starting like an Ashtanga community practice space, and asked who, like in a little poll on Instagram, who would come. And I checked no. She messaged me back, and of course she's out of town, so I wouldn't be able to come. And she's like, "Oh, you don't like Ashtanga?" And we messaged, and I said, actually it's fine. And I practiced it myself. I was into Ashtanga like earlier on in my practice. And things I love about it are the discipline. I like the discipline of practicing the same sequence and practicing it in the morning, and how it really like reflects back to you the state of your body, your mind. There's something really special about doing the same poses over and over again. There's a peril of doing the same poses over and over again. And what I said to her, I said, Ashtanga's fine, that's great. And if you love it, you got to do it. But there's so much forward folding. Just be careful that you are strengthening your posterior chain, that you're strengthening the muscles of the hamstrings and the glutes so that you don't get the overstretched hamstring tendon. And she then messages me back and says, actually, I'm having discomfort there. I've been having a tweak there. And I was like, this is exactly it. It's such a risk to be forward folding over and over again without doing a balancing practice to really support the hamstring and the attachment. So some people will never suffer this injury because they are doing some other cross training stuff. And sometimes the tendons and some people are just more susceptible to this injury than someone else. And it's not that they did anything wrong. It's just like it's the luck of the draw and the more delicate design of the tendons and the muscle tissue for that person. But I think back to like so many yogis who I've taught with over the years. My first wife, honestly, my second wife, all had this injury. It's so common from dance and from yoga because of the deep forward folding that we do. So if you have overstretched the hamstring tendon and you're feeling it in forward folds, you do need to back out of those folds and create more tone to support that. If you've been working that for a while and you're not really getting any leverage, my course, Happy Hammies, that I'm debuting today might be just the thing you need. Since it's the first time that I'm running it, it's like the beta run of Happy Hammies. So it's an 8-week course. We're going to join as a cohort, 12 people max, and we're going to start at the spring equinox, so the week of March 20th. And through 8 weeks, you'll move through this progressive course material that I designed specifically to address this injury in the same way that I give it to people who I work one-on-one with, but in this group component. So each week you'll have new practices, new lectures, so you can understand why you got this injury in the first place and heal it once and for all so that you're not worried. You don't have to be nervous about the fear of re-injury. So each week there's pre-recorded content that you'll watch, and we'll have a live group call. And in the live group call, I'll take all of your questions and move you through a practice and really make sure that the material is landing in a way that it's affirming for you. So if you have the hamstring tendon injury, I'm so sorry. It's like the worst kind of yoga butt to get. We're not talking about perky glutes. We're talking about tendonitis at the really delicate hamstring attachment. Technically, it's the origin at the sit bone, but we all call it attachment, so I'm going with it. So I'm sorry if you've had that injury, but you do not have to just like suffer through the pain. There is a remedy for this, and I'd love to share it with you. DM me if you have any questions, or check out that link in my bio. This is the cheapest I'm going to run the course. The price is going to double the next time we run it, which probably won't be until the fall. Tag a friend who needs to heal their hamstring. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon.